The room is almost silent. A phone rests face down on a wooden table, its screen dark, its speaker quiet. Nothing has happened. No message has appeared, no call has arrived. Yet your hand hesitates before turning it over, and then it begins. A quick tightening beneath your ribs. Your pulse stumbles once, then gathers speed. The air feels subtly different, as though the room is shifted by a fraction too small to see. Before your eyes have confirmed anything, before your mind has formed a single coherent thought, your heart has already reached a conclusion. Most people call this anxiety. That is not what makes it remarkable. The remarkable part is that your heart often reacts before your conscious mind even understands why. It feels almost supernatural, as though some hidden part of you has caught sight of a future your awareness has not yet reached. For centuries, people interpreted moments like these as omens. A racing heart before tragedy, an uneasy feeling before disaster, an instinct to avoid a certain road. Entire cultures built stories around these experiences because they seemed impossible to explain. How could the body know something the mind did not? Modern science dismissed many of those beliefs, but in doing so it uncovered something even stranger. The body is not waiting for the brain to finish thinking. In many situations it has already begun. Imagine walking through an ancient forest 50,000 years ago. The leaves barely move. The air carries no obvious warning. You hear no roar. You see no predator. Yet something inside you changes. Your breathing becomes shallow. Tiny muscles around your eyes tighten. Blood begins leaving your skin, quietly flowing toward the muscles that might soon be needed. Your pupils widen. Your heart accelerates. Only moments later does your conscious mind notice the broken branch hidden beneath the ferns, or the pair of unmoving eyes watching from the shadows. Most people imagine consciousness as the commander of the body. Evolution tells a different story. For almost all of human history, conscious thought was simply too slow. A creature that paused to analyze every possibility often became food for something that did not. Natural selection favored a nervous system capable of acting before certainty arrived. Not because it was always correct, because hesitation was often fatal. Somewhere inside your skull, millions of years of survival still continue their silent work. Long before you become aware of danger, your brain is already scanning the world for fragments of it. A slight change in someone's voice. A delayed reply that feels almost imperceptibly unusual, an expression that disappears too quickly to identify. A silence that lasts just a fraction longer than expected. Individually, these details seem meaningless. Together, they become a pattern, and your conscious mind is rarely the first to see it. Researchers studying emotional processing notice something curious while observing how the brain responds to potential threats. Signals associated with fear and uncertainty can begin activating deep emotional networks before the regions responsible for deliberate reasoning have fully interpreted what is happening. The sequence is subtle, measured in fractions of a second. But in biology, fractions of a second have always mattered. Your awareness often arrives late to a conversation your nervous system has already been having. This is why bad news sometimes feels anticipated rather than surprising. Not because you predicted the future, because your brain had already been collecting evidence without asking your permission. You remember only the moment everything suddenly made sense. You rarely remember the hundreds of invisible observations that led there. This hidden process is one reason intuition feels mysterious. Most people imagine intuition as something magical. Scientists increasingly describe it as compressed experience. Your brain records vastly more information than your conscious attention can ever hold. Facial movements measured in milliseconds. Tiny shifts in posture. Familiar routines broken by almost invisible changes. The rhythm of a loved one's speech. The pace of footsteps approaching a room. You are not consciously counting these details. Your nervous system is. And when enough of them align, your body responds before language can. It is tempting to think this mechanism exists only for physical danger. It does not. Humans became social long before we became technological. For our ancestors, exclusion from the group could be just as deadly as an approaching predator. Losing trust, missing deception, or failing to detect conflict carried profound consequences. Survival depended not only on recognizing teeth in the darkness, but also tension around the fire. Over thousands of generations, our brains became astonishingly sensitive to social uncertainty. Today, the predators have changed. The machinery has not. A delayed message from someone you love, an unexpected call late at night, a manager asking to talk privately. 3 ordinary words, yet your heart responds as though the forest has returned. The danger is no longer claws, it is uncertainty. And uncertainty may be one of the most powerful triggers the human brain has ever evolved. Curiously, researchers have found that anticipation often creates greater physiological stress than the event itself. The unknown forces the brain into relentless prediction. It begins constructing possibilities. Most of them never happen, but the body prepares for each one as though it might. Your heart is not responding to reality alone. It is responding to simulations. An endless stream of imagined futures unfolding inside neural circuits you never consciously witness. This is why waiting outside an operating room can feel unbearable. Why hearing, "we need to talk," can produce an instant wave of dread. Why the minutes before opening an email sometimes feel longer than the hours that follow. The imagination has extraordinary power, but evolution did not design it for comfort. It designed it for survival. There is another layer to this story. One that makes the racing heart even more unsettling. Your heart is not merely obeying your brain, it is communicating with it. For decades, the heart was treated largely as a mechanical pump, faithfully circulating blood through an intricate network of vessels. Yet modern physiology has revealed a far more dynamic relationship. The conversation never stops. Each heartbeat becomes part of the brain's interpretation of the world. When your pulse accelerates, your mind often searches for an explanation. Sometimes it finds a real threat. Sometimes it invents one. The body changes first. The story comes afterward. This creates a fascinating paradox. We often believe our thoughts produce our emotions, but sometimes our emotions shape the thoughts we believe. A racing heart can convince the mind that danger must exist somewhere, even if it has not yet been identified. The brain dislikes unanswered questions, so it writes answers. Not always accurate ones, just convincing enough to complete the picture. Perhaps this explains why fear spreads so easily through crowds, why uncertainty becomes contagious, why entire societies sometimes react emotionally before they fully understand what they are reacting to. Human beings are prediction machines. We are constantly constructing tomorrow from fragments of today. Most of the time, those predictions remain invisible. Occasionally, they echo through the chest, and we call it instinct. And perhaps the most humbling realization is not that your heart can sense bad news before your mind understands it, but that every heartbeat is a reminder that the oldest parts of who you are have never truly stopped listening to a world your conscious mind can only partially perceive.